Luree Williamson with Agriculture for Life. We are in December. It is hard to believe we are almost 1 week out to Christmas, and with Christmas means turkey. So we've gone straight to the source. We're joined by Laurel Winter, owner of Wintersturkey and vice chair of the Alberta Turkey Producers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, we're super excited. So when we think of Christmas, we think of Thanksgiving, of course we think of turkey. Now I know the Alberta Turkey Producers want us to eat turkey year round, but it is December and I am certainly going to be having turkey for dinner. So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk some turkey with you and learn a little bit more about turkeys and how they're raised and that sort of thing. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're at a farm just outside of Calgary.
So my name is Laurel and we raise turkeys just east of Calgary in a little town called Delny. We're a fourth generation turkey farmer. So my dad's dad started farming turkeys years and years ago, and our farm's always had turkeys on it. And then my husband and I came back to the farm about 4 years ago, and we've taken over from there. So we're now raising our family here, and our kids are going to be fifth generation turkey farmers, maybe.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell me, so go back to great grandpa, I think you said there.
Sure.
So how, do you know the story of one day he says, hey, I'm getting a turkey, and it all started there?
Well, I mean, like most of us, our ancestors did start on farms, and they were mixed farms. We had chickens and pigs and some grain and some cattle, to pay bills. And as the years went on, what paid the most bills ended up being turkeys for my granddad. And so they kind of got rid of, little things on the side and grew more and more turkeys every year. And then that's what, like, our last name's Winter. So that's where the name Wintersturkeys came from. And it's just kind of growing from there. And our market here is a little bit of local, free range, organic. And like people say, how did you start into that? And like, that's just how my granddad raised them. And it ended up being kind of a bit of a niche thing. So we've just kind of fallen into this kind of really cool market. So
you came back to the farm about 4 years ago.
Yeah, so I grew up on this farm and always wanted to come back and farm, but I left and went to university, and I became a teacher and taught for a few years, and I met my husband, as he's also a teacher. And my parents were kind of at a stage where they either were going to retire or, sell the quota, or, looking for a little bit of a slower pace. And so it was time for me either to come back or say that farming wasn't in my future. So I came back. That's
fantastic. Well, there's nothing that Ag for Life enjoys talking more to a teacher about educating about where food comes from. So hello, perfect.
There you go.
So we do know that a lot of people are going to be having some turkey for Christmas. So here's a trivia question for you. Do you know what the tradition of Christmas as the feast of the turkey at Christmas? Do you know why we celebrate Christmas with turkey?
A turkey? I don't. Do you know?
I might know. There's a few different variations, but apparently Charles Dickens in The Christmas Story is credited for popularizing the serving for turkey at Christmas dinner. So interesting. But let's dive in a little bit. So let's assume I know nothing about turkeys.
Okay.
So you don't have to assume too much. I'm not a turkey expert. So I do know that there are male turkeys and female turkeys. So male turkeys are called?
Male turkeys are called toms.
Okay. Females?
Are called hens.
And baby turkeys?
Are called poults.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have more than one turkey. That is called a
flock.
Okay, perfect.
Flock of turkeys.
You passed the test. So let's talk a little bit about raising turkeys. Across Canada, we've got turkey farmers all across Canada. Within Alberta, do you know how many turkey farmers there are within Alberta?
There's 48 licensed growers in Alberta. So within Alberta, we have two types of turkey producers, meaning we have federal growers and provincial growers. So federal growers would market and ship to a federal plant, meaning Lilydale or Sunrise. And then provincial growers, they either process their birds themselves or get them killed at a provincial plant. And then they do their own marketing. So kind of filling some of those little farmer market stands and meat markets and those types of things.
Excellent. So when you look at the number of birds, so I guess we'll start, how many birds do you have?
So on our farm, we're a provincial grower, which means our birds are marketed up by ourselves, and they have to stay in the province. Okay. Whereas at federal growers, if they're processed at a federal plant, they can go all across Canada. So on our farm, we raise about 30,000 turkeys. Okay,
is that, when is that time frame?
So our market, like I said, is this kind of free range organic, and we've made our name on fresh birds at seasons. So we sell most of our turkeys at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. And then, so we have two flocks. So about half at Thanksgiving and half of those at Christmas. So.
Okay, so that's a lot of birds.
Yeah.
So is there sort of a, Laurel, is there a quota system around, so that's your max number, or is that sort of supply and demand, or how does it work? So if I wanted to get into producing turkeys, let's assume I'm setting up my barn, is there a maximum number that I can have?
Yeah, so to be a licensed grower, you have to be a quota owner in Alberta, well, all across Canada. But that means that it is mandated how many kilograms of turkey you are allowed to grow on your farm. And again, if you're a provincial grower or if you're a federal grower, it determines where those kilograms are meant to go. So supply management means that there is this kind of supply and demand. So we try to make sure our production as turkey growers meets the demand that the consumers have in Alberta and in Canada, so that there's not a shortage, but there's also not a surplus of turkey in the province and in the country.
Perfect. So we know that when we're eating a turkey, your turkey, I mean, it was born and raised here in Alberta.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So, okay, so now let's talk a little bit about turkeys themselves. So they're kept, you've got some inside or outside, or how are they actually raised?
So all birds in Alberta are raised kind of free run, which means they're not in cages, they are free to roam the barn, and there are on-farm food safety programs and audits that ensure that these birds are being raised humanely and, you know, in the best of conditions. So our birds, for example, are raised outside and have access to the sun and sunshine, but not all turkeys are raised that way, but all turkeys are raised in a very comfortable environment, probably even more so if they're inside, because it's climate controlled and air conditioned, and it's not a bad life.
It's ideal. It's like the spa for turkey.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and so now what do they eat?
So turkeys require a very high protein diet, which means that they need these calories to put on the beautiful weight that you see on your Christmas table. So we mix our own feed here on the farm, and so we need to source things that have high protein. So we look for things like soybean has high protein, wheat has high protein, barley can have high protein, and then we mix that off with the minerals and supplements that they need. So they need salt, they need vitamins to grow their feathers, and all these things that make a balanced diet. So what you end up having is kind of a mix of high protein and then a pellet diet. And it meets all of their nutrient demands.
So where, Laurel, would you get your feed?
For our free range flock, our feed comes from a feed mill in Lethbridge, and they ship us like a pellet that it looks like a little pellet of like germ kind of, and it's so dissolvable. It will meet the turkey's tongue and kind of just dissolve, and it's very easy for the turkey to digest. So all of our supplements are found off farm, but then we majorly mix our feed off with wheat, and we grow all of our own wheat on our farm. So we harvest our field and then mix that off with the supplement that comes from the feed mill.
Now you mentioned about quota. So quota is something that for a lot of people that don't really understand quota so much. Can you give us just a quick overview of what is quota?
So quota is a system that allocates kilograms and to each province, and then each province allocates those kilograms to each grower. So we are governed by TFC, which is the Canadian Poultry Organization, and then they allocate each province with the kilograms that they see that each province needs to meet the demand of the consumer. And so then as an Alberta producer group, those kilograms are then distributed to the producers within the province to meet the province demand. Now what happens is there's increases in quota and there's decreases in quota. An increase in quota is when the turkey market is strong and people are eating lots of turkey and there's low stocks in the freezer, so we need to grow more turkey. And then there's decreases in quota when the turkey market might be soft, or something like COVID happens and there needs to be a cut in quota so that there's not a surplus in our freezers. So there is a supply and demand market. So there's highs and there's lows in our year and in our growth cycle of having a supply and demand industry.
So you raised a good point with COVID. Has supply gone, like is demand gone up? Is it like, have you seen a change this year?
So it's interesting the impact that COVID has had on the turkey industry. And like a large portion of the turkey sales are restaurants, hotels, deli counters, and they have been largely impacted by COVID. So that has resulted in a decrease in turkey demand because there's simply not, those things don't exist at this time, and there's a decrease in deli grocery demand. However, individually, like families, that their intake of turkey has increased. And interestingly enough, like over the season of Easter and Thanksgiving, whole bird sales were stronger than they have been in many years, which is very positive. And it means that, with smaller gatherings and restaurants perhaps being closed and hotels not offering Christmas parties, people are bringing those turkeys into their homes and cooking that bird themselves, which is amazing. But it's hard to know if that trend will continue into next year or into this even upcoming Christmas season.
Well, it's interesting because we do know that a lot of people have been with COVID, they're at home, they're cooking. We've seen a huge increase in families cooking together. So it makes sense, right? We're gonna take on the big bird and we're gonna cook a beautiful dinner. So
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about steroids, hormones, antibiotics. You're gonna get a lot of ask about this. Steroids and hormones. Let's sort of talk about those. Do we use them? Do we not use them?
It's mandated that like the meat that we consume does not have those things in them. Whether we use them to keep our flocks healthy throughout the year, and we use antibiotics to prevent illnesses or to treat an illness that comes into contact with our flock. There are very strict rules behind what we can market, what antibiotics are allowed to be used, and what marketing time there is before processing those birds. So there's none of that in your meat that you're consuming. And it's very safe. It's mandated that you can't be consuming those things.
Laurel, I know you probably said that once or twice, because when I go to the grocery store, there's no hormones and no added, all of the packaging, and we just keep reinforcing to consumers that, enjoy your turkey, right? It's a safe, high quality product. So how long does it take from start to finish for the bird?
Good question. So like you mentioned before, we have hens and toms. So hens, they grow a little lighter, they don't grow as big. So a hen typically takes about 11 to 16 weeks to finish. And a tom is a bigger animal and they're a bit harder to raise. And so they typically are processed between 14 and 18 weeks.
And they eat the same, just maybe more?
Yeah, we are a hen producer. We don't grow a lot of toms, but I think that primarily they just require a higher calorie diet.
Okay, yeah. And what are the most common, so what type of breed, I guess, do you have? Like, I know there's, when we visualize a turkey, we often think of the wild turkey.
Right.
So what do you have at the farm?
In Canada, there aren't that many actually breeds of turkey. There is a Nicholas breed and a hybrid breed. And our birds come from Cherison Hatchery in Manitoba. And it really depends on the year, but it's pretty much a mix of either a hybrid or a Nicholas. And, from your, just looking at them, you would never know which one is which. They're a white turkey. They're beautiful, healthy birds. They look very similar and they grow very similar. The majority of turkeys growing across America are those two types of birds. On our farm, we definitely have hybrid and Nicholas, and our commercial flock is hybrid or Nicholas. We also do have Orlock turkeys on our farm. So that's the heritage bronze bird that kind of is showcased in the pictures and like the big tail feathers. So we do have a small flock of those birds, and they're really fun to have. They're little, they have a lot of personality, those birds.
Well, they gotta fit their image, right?
Yeah.
And so do you keep all of the birds together? So you mentioned you've got hens, not so many toms, but are they all together in the flock, or do you have to worry about keeping boys and girls separated, or?
There is certainly, like, the term hen pecking is it's real. They're like, turkeys by nature are a little aggressive. And so we do try to separate toms and hens, especially if we see any of that hen pecking or any aggressive behavior. And on farms across Alberta, there are hen flocks and tom flocks. And it's a safe way to raise the bird. It's the best way for the bird. And they're such different animals. They're in size. Like, a tom requires a different feeder, different water, because they're a bigger bird and more floor space. So we do try to separate them just to make sure that they can stay as healthy as possible.
Excellent. And then, of course, we all know turkeys for the gobble.
Yeah.
So who's gobbling?
Well, like, it's kind of funny to listen to your turkeys because they will talk back to you. If you give them a little gobble, they will gobble right back.
So there's like the turkey whisperer thing going on, right? That's awesome. So another trivia question, and I don't know the answer to this, so we'll see if you know the answer to this. Do we know on average how much a person eats a year of turkey?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
if you ask me, I eat a lot of turkey.
Yeah, so I'm going to do my homework and add that in. So I remember reading it actually, and then I can't remember it, but that's fantastic. So is there anything else, Laurel, that you want the whole wide world to know about turkeys?
I want you to know that a turkey is delicious at Christmas and Thanksgiving and year-round, and eat all the turkey that you can eat. It's healthy, it's lean, and it's delicious. It's so versatile too.
That's awesome. Now, if I want to buy a turkey from you, from your farm, how do I do that?
So we market our turkeys, like I said, in Alberta and mostly in Calgary and surrounding areas. So a lot of local grocery stores, meat markets, health food stores carry our turkey in Calgary.
Excellent. So what's your website? I'm sure you've got one set up that we can have a visit.
It's Wintersturkeys.ca.
That's awesome. Sounds wonderful. So, well, Laura, we really appreciate it. I know you're busy wrangling turkeys and raising turkeys so the rest of us can have a fabulous meal. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for taking the time to talk turkey with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.